This recharge session is entitled Release Through Missions. This is going to be led by Dr. Tim Fuller. Get ready to soak it all in. Get ready to take your missions department to a whole new level. Now, let's get recharged.
Okay. Well, it's good to see y'all this morning.
Good to see you
Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Dr. Fuller, and I'm excited about doing this presentation about missions.
Amen.
I'm excited about you being here to learn about missions, and hopefully this will recharge you and get you excited about what God can do with you through the mission. Now, we're running a little bit late, so we're going to go ahead and get started today and talk a little bit about missions in this recharge conference, and thing I would call Release Through Missions. Release Through Missions. I worked for the Boy Scouts of America for about 15 years in the city of Dallas. And one of our camps that's in Athens, Texas, we have 3 lakes where the kids can catch fish. And so people get excited when they come from the urban areas of Dallas and go out there and try to catch fish for the first time. It's exciting. They have cane poles, they have all kinds of stuff, and some people have never been outside the city limits. And so they'll be excited for them to catch a fish. But after they will catch a fish, our policy is you have to release it.
Yeah, you got to throw it back.
It's catch and release.
Yes.
And when I thought about that, when I thought about releasing through missions, I thought about how many people are good, churches are good at catching fish, but we never release them to do ministry, release them to do missions, right? So we're going to talk about how it's important to release through missions. Well, let's talk a little bit about this, because number one, we know that Jesus was motivated by missions, wasn't he?
Yes.
What we're going to do, we're going to try to lay a groundwork, a framework, if you will, for how important missions is to Jesus. You remember in Luke chapter 2, when they were seeking and searching for Jesus, Jesus said this to his mom and dad: "Why is it that you were looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" Some of you say, "I must be about my Father's business." So even as a teenager, his concern was doing what God had called him to do. But also he says in John 9, he said that we must work the works of him who sent me as long as it is day. So night is coming when no man can work. It's about doing his business. So what Jesus did is what we see in Jesus is this motivation to do ministry. But not only did he motivate to do ministry, he also modeled missions. See, a lot of times we see Jesus as Jesus' teaching, but one thing we need to be careful of and we need to be cautious of is Jesus and what he modeled. First of all, Jesus modeled missions. Remember in John chapter 4, the woman at Samaria, right? The whole encounter, if you read all of that text, here's what Jesus said: "I must go through Samaria." Right? When everybody was telling him to avoid Samaria or go around Samaria, Jesus said, "There's a lady that I need to meet in Samaria," because Jesus modeled missions. But not only did he model missions through the woman, he also modeled missions through the Canaanite woman in Matthew chapter 15. Well, how do I know that that is a model of missions? Because look what happens. Jesus hardly ever traveled outside Israel, the boundaries of Israel. But if you read Matthew chapter 15, around verse 20, 21, he goes out of the boundaries of Galilee into the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And there he meets this Canaanite woman, right? And remember, the Canaanite woman said, he said, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy upon me. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil." And the Bible says, and Jesus answered her not a word. Interesting, isn't it? But this Canaanite woman still pressed in. And then look at what Jesus said. Jesus says, "I've come only to the lost sheep of Israel." See, he was outside of his boundaries. And I will suggest to you that the reason he goes outside of Galilee is because he models for us this idea of missions. But he also models for us the idea of the man that's a demoniac. Y'all mean the man that had 1,000 demons?
Yes.
If you read the context of that whole entire narrative, Jesus at the beginning of the text said, let us go to the other side. Remember, they encountered a storm, right? And so they encountered a storm, and Jesus says, peace be still. And here's what happens. They make it to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. A demon-possessed man comes out of the tombs, and he's screaming, he's crazy. Jesus heals the man, casts the demon out, watch this, and he gets back in the boat and goes to the other side. You mean you went through all of that storm? You went through all of this stuff just to go to the other side, heal this man, and then get up and leave? You didn't stay there for any time? You didn't have no signs and wonders, movements? Right? Because I would suggest to you that he went on that other side of the sea simply to heal this man, to deliver this man, and look what he tells the man. The man said, I want to go with you.
That's right, that's right.
And he tried to get in the boat. Jesus said, no, I don't need you with me. I need you to go home. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Because Jesus modeled missions. But Jesus not only modeled missions, but I believe Jesus mandated missions.
All right.
Come on now.
All the verses we see, Jesus mandates it. Look what he says. He said, just as peace be with you, as the Father has sent me, I send you. See, because he mandated missions. You are responsible for going out. He said to that problem, he said, I want you to beseech the Lord of the harvest to send workers into the vineyard. Because there's too many people out there.
Yeah.
You remember Matthew 28, the Great Commission? Right? Go baptize and make disciples of all men. You heard that before. That's right after his resurrection, right before his ascension. He says that. So he mandates missions. But also he gives us right before he ascended, Acts chapter 1, the very familiar verse. He says this, you shall receive power after the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses where? In these places, Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, and to the end of the earth, right? So he gives us a mandate to do that. That's our responsibility as a church, right? The question is, like I said, remember the harvest is plentiful? Today, out of 6.5 billion people on the planet, over 4 billion are without a saving relationship with Christ. That's why it says go. That's why he sends us. Matter of fact, if you line them up in a single file line, they will wrap around the earth 25 times. That's how many people, right?
My goodness. My goodness.
Don't know Jesus.
That's a picture there, man.
Yeah. Watch this. 2.4 billion of those who have no means to hear the message. That's why we're going to talk about a lot of international missions. We have missions. See, we have people here. We got Bible everywhere, don't we? On our phone, we got Bibles everywhere. But 2.4 million, they're cut off from the gospel due to lack of missionaries, lack of resources, etc. So the question is this, right? If only one in every 20,000 believers will ever take the gospel to those who are out of the reach of the church, right? The question is this: why do you think believers never get involved? This is a discussion question, by the way. Why do you think believers hardly ever get involved in missions? What do you think?
The fear of rejection of the message that they carry.
Ah, fear of rejection, right, of the message. Especially when it comes to evangelism, right? Fear of the message. What else do you think is a reason people don't get involved in missions? Do you have a lot of missions? Do you have a lot of people going to missions at your church? Wow. Why, you think?
A lot of times they think we're not really doing anything. A lot of times they think it's just for old people.
Yeah.
And,
That's the serial
and they got us in this little box, and, and they don't want to be no part of it. That's those old women over there. And what we're trying to do is get into the community more, because they think we just sit around the table and study, and do funerals and repasts, and serve food. But now we're getting out in the community with the House and Crisis Center, and they're seeing it, and young people are joining us. But I think they really believe we don't do anything. A bunch of old women.
Wow.
You know, we have some meetings in there, but you know.
Yeah.
We did a commercial to make sure they know it's for missions for everybody, even including men. So that's what we did. We try to put it out there because, you know, sometimes people are very visual. So we did a commercial that we're out of the box.
Wow.
And I think, and then that did spark some interest in people.
Good. Any other reason people don't get involved in missions? When I grew up in Cleveland, Texas, I went to church, and primarily 2 Baptist churches, right? Most of the Fuller family went to Shiloh Baptist Church, and my Grant side of the family went to Mount Zion Baptist Church in Cleveland. It was Mount Zion Missionary Baptist, and it was Shiloh Missionary Baptist. But you know what? We never did any missions.
How about that?
So why we call missionary Baptist? We ought to be called stationary Baptist. Because we don't really do any missions. There are many reasons why people don't. Right? People don't want to go through the headache of trying to find out what you need to do in missions. So there's many different reasons. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that idea that Jesus has in Acts chapter 1 verse 8, and we're going to try to challenge you and encourage you to get involved not in missions just locally. I'm going to challenge you to get in short-term and sometimes long-term missionary positions. Right? And we have Brother Calhoun here. He has some thoughts here about the international mission. Well, we should talk a little bit in just a second, right? So now, let's look at this. Because see, here's the thing about missionary. It's going to impact the church, right? It's a way of believers to use their gifts, skills, and talents in local, national, and international mission context, right? A lot of times we see missionaries as just going out there in the jungle, right? And that is a part of missions, right? Going out with their lions and tigers and bears, and and so that's our idea of missions. But we're going to argue today that there's more to missions than just that, right? There's so many different avenues. You can use a skill and ability, right? Also, here's how it benefits and blesses the body. Missions broadens your perspective, right? Your perspective on other cultures, your perspective on other countries. About 4 years ago, I had a chance to do my first mission trip in the Philippines, right? This year I went to the Philippines and into India. And it revolutionized my perspective on the world. We have such a closed view of things in America.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so what it does, it'll broaden your perspective. It'll get you to start seeing things a little bit differently. You see? Because y'all think we got poverty in Dallas and Fort Worth? Go to India. Right? Where the bed at Union Gospel Mission, they'd be glad to have.
Yes. That's true.
See, what happens is you won't see that until you get outside of the States. And here's what it does. It'll deepen your spirituality too. Because a lot of things we take for granted. Right?
Yep.
And you say, man, if they can worship Jesus Christ in this context, and I have the freedom and the liberty to do it, I ought to be ashamed of myself. Let me tell you what happened. I was in India, and I spent 2 weeks doing the mission thing in India. And Brother Calhoun, I don't know if you know this, they're trying to pass another law nationwide in India. It's called an anti-conversion law.
Yep.
The Hindus are in government, and they don't like Christians. Here's what they said. They said to me that they have a little saying that said, temple for the Hindus, mosque for the Muslims, and the cemetery for the Christians. See? So when I go in that context and they have the joy of the Lord, they're trying to learn the Bible, they're trying to learn how to reach their community for Jesus Christ, right? Under the threat of either getting fined, threat of being imprisoned, threat of losing their job, threat of it impacting their children. Because once you convert, you'll lose all of your privileges from the government. You see?
Yeah.
Now in that context, you say, man, I got all this liberty, right? It also gives you a heart of compassion. You start seeing things a little bit differently. So it's going to benefit the church. And what it's going to do is going to help you. Really, if you go to a mission trip and do some mission work, right? What it'll do is you say, you know what? It'll get you, want to get you more involved in just doing ministry at the church. Because you see the need. You see? What we're going to do is, well, how do we do that? You remember the verse we just quoted, Acts chapter 1? He gives us 3 areas. Matter of fact, the book of Acts is, some people suggest that the book of Acts is laid out like this verse, Acts chapter 1, verses 8. They start in Jerusalem, they move to Judea and Samaria, and then they ultimately move to the other parts of the earth. So we're going to lose that. We're going to use that as a strategy for missions, right? Because first of all, we're going to start in our Jerusalem, locally, city, right, and community. Now I'm not going to spend too much time there, because if you look at the presentation this morning, he does a lot of things for the city, a lot of strategies to reach the city in his Love Our City thing, right?
Right.
So we're not going to spend a lot of time there. But let's look at locally, in your Jerusalem. Start where you are. There's many different ways you can do that. Sometimes if you don't want to recreate the wheel, there's a lot of organizations that you can collaborate with, right? That I think can help you. But you have to have those organizations that are in line with your values and your missions, okay? Ask the question, how can we work together, okay? The Bible says you are the salt of the earth. You heard this verse before, haven't you? You are the salt of the earth, right? But if the salt loses its saltiness, how, where, or wherewith shall it be salted? It's no longer good for anything. And here's the ultimate thing. In order for you to make an impact, you must first make contact.
Yep.
One lady wrote a book many years ago called Out of the Salt Shaker. Right? We got to get out of our 4 walls, right? And get involved in the community, in the city, in the nation, ultimately in the world. Right? I like to cook. If anybody is on my Facebook, I'm always putting out stuff that I've cooked, right? And I love to do cooking. And I cooked something the other day, but I had a problem. It tasted terrible. And I have a pretty good appetite. But when I ate it, it tasted terrible. And you know why? It's because when I started cooking, I realized I didn't have any salt. Now I tried to doctor it up with different spices. I tried garlic powder, onion powder, and stuff like that. And that did okay, but when the finished product came to the table, I couldn't even hardly eat a wine because it had no salt. And when I thought about that, Brother Calhoun, I thought about the world. Can you imagine a world? Can you imagine a meal without salt?
No.
Now, imagine a world without salt.
Yeah.
And we have
like
salt.
Now.
And we have salt, but we've kept it in the salt shaker. We all love our holy huddles. Right? Our 4 walls, but we don't rarely get outside of those 4 walls. In order to make impact, you gotta make contact. Maybe you can maybe you can collaborate with the YMCA, right? It has a Christian base to it. They got a gym. If your church doesn't have a gym, they got a gym. And here's the thing. If you want to get men involved, say, you know what? This YMCA needs some coaches. To coach baseball, coach basketball, right? That's access to hundreds of children to reach for ministry and discipleship, right? We have city recreation centers. Here's the thing. Recreation centers always need numbers. They got to report those numbers, don't they? So if you can have something like, okay, we have a basketball tournament by people, the end, give an opportunity to present the gospel, right? Or model stuff, right? Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Clubs, elementary schools, right? Those hundreds of access to kids. Maybe you can tutor them, right? Maybe you can teach them how to read,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because they need it, right?
Yes, I'll teach.
And people say, well, what about separation of church and state? Let me tell you something about these schools in Dallas again. Right? Some of these schools are so bad off, they ain't got time to be, if you can come help them, they ain't got time to be arguing about Jesus. If you can help with their star and their test scores.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Invite them to church, your church to do that, right? Habitat for Humanity, building homes. Now think about all these is everybody has a different skill set. Some for educators, some from like service industry, you know what I'm saying? May not be able to teach. They may be able to drive a hammer, drive a nail with a hammer or something like that. So you got all the different opportunities, right? You got cops and clergy, right? Especially with what's going on with shooting down black men. Wouldn't it be good to develop a relationship with your church and the police department?
Police, that's right.
Right? So if things go down, the first person they gonna call is you or the pastor, right?
Yes.
Right? But let's talk about some national short-term missions, right? Short-term missions is where many people get hung up. We can do stuff in the community, but we say, hey man, well now we want you to go out of Dallas. Let me pray over it. You know what that means, don't you? We say, let me pray about it. That means we don't want to do it. So they may range from days to a year, right? So man, that's a long time long. Some will call missions. You hear people talk, we're going on a mission trip, right? You can do short-term missions. You can do, and you can also do sort of missions that are sort of national all throughout the United States, maybe even into Mexico, right? You can do like disaster relief, right? Okay, this is our whole world, right? All these places are opportunities. Now you can go individually, or you can go as a team. Like you have the Texas Baptist Men. Whenever there's a hurricane or something like that, you can say, hey man, let's team up with them. Let's take a group down to Houston or down to Miami, wherever it is, and let's do some disaster relief. Red Cross, right? You can also devote yourself to long-term missions, right? And some people have even become career missionaries. That's for the rest of your life, where they'll go for a few years and then they'll come back, and they may come to the States for a little while and raise money and then go back out, right? So we really need to be, I think this is the heart of God, y'all, okay? There are different ways that you can serve, different options for the people in your church or for short-term mission opportunities. We got the mission serving organizations like the North American, how many of you heard of the North American Mission Board? Okay, 2 people. That's a good opportunity. How many of you heard of the International Mission Board? That's Brother Q. Now see, that is one of the largest mission serving organizations, and they can give you a lot of information, right? They're all over the world, right? They give you different information. Now here's the thing. A couple questions you got to ask yourself. What is in your heart? do you have a heart for a certain people group? Right? When I went to the Philippines, I had a heart for the people in the Philippines. I want to go to Africa sometime next year, right? Because I think God has given me a heart for that people group, right? See, I got the bug for mission when I went the first time, and now I want to do it all the time. I just don't have enough money to do it, right? So we talk about fundraise things, but it's just good to see different things, right?
Yes.
So you gotta say, now what do I have a heart for? Do I have a heart for a certain people group? Do I have a heart for a certain thing, right? What are some areas of your concern? You say, oh, some people have a heart for evangelism. I want to share the gospel with people. Some people may not be that passionate about it. As far as, well, I'm timid, I'm shy, I don't want to do that. Let's suppose that maybe you have an area of social justice. In other words, people that are exploited. Sex trafficking. You see what I'm saying? There's mission organizations that focus on specialized areas, right? Maybe you're concerned about dealing with poverty. Maybe that's what your heartbeat is. That's your area of concern. Maybe your area of concern is education, right? There are mission service organizations that all they do is go out and say, hey, we're going to teach these people English. We're going to go into Haiti and teach them English. We're going to go into Dominica. We're going to go into these different areas. And if you're an educator, right, they're paying people now to teach overseas. Can you imagine as a missionary, the difference you can make teaching people English, teaching people stuff, right? And then at the same time being able to communicate the gospel to them. So you also, there's international, there's certain people group, right? Okay. Also got to ask, what is your spiritual gift?
Yeah.
Right? If your my spiritual gift is teaching. Okay? So you know what I do? When I go to the Philippines, I teach people. I got a PhD from Southwestern Seminary. And so what I do is my heart is teaching people how to understand the Bible. I teach Bible interpretation and stuff like that. I teach people how to read the Bible. So what I do is, my mission trips that I particularly do are focused on teaching pastors and preachers and students how to understand the Bible. I did it when I went to the Philippines for 2 weeks, right? Teaching Word of Life Bible students. Also did it when I went to India, right? And see, some people have a certain talent, skill, or ability, right? How many have ever heard of a medical missionary? Yeah. Let's suppose you have some people in your church, let's say West Side, that are doctors or nurses, right? And that's a prime avenue, right, for people to get involved. Even if you're not doing the evangelism, stuff like that, some people may need, hey man, can you help these people get some inoculations, or can you help us administer medicine? Can you help deal with these people, right? Some people are trainers, educators. Some people are service oriented. All these different avenues for doing ministry. Look at these medical missionaries, right? People that have a profession in medicine, right? Okay? So these different avenues. Some people are educating. Okay? Different things. Okay, that's what she went out at the Philippines. Let me ask you this. What do you notice? What do you notice about many people in these pictures that are doing the missionary work?
They don't particularly look like the people that they're serving.
Wow. So when I'm getting ready for this presentation, I'm gonna be honest with you, I got a little frustrated. I couldn't hardly find any, either medical, education, people that look like us. All I saw was a whole bunch of my white brothers and sisters in Africa, Haiti, Jamaica. And I Googled everything. And I'm saying, what would it be like if somebody in Africa Because the majority of people are people of color. What about if Africans saw us coming over there, us investing, right? Because the reality is we have the ability to put things in a certain context. We call it contextualizing, right? We have the ability to do that.
Yes.
And we call it the browning of America, right? You know, as the browning of America, where are the missionaries going to ultimately have to come from? We got to do something. If we're going to fulfill the mandate that Christ has, right? So educational, medical, missionaries, stuff like that, they're teaching. This one in the Philippines. Y'all thought Dallas traffic was bad? And here's the thing, India is worse than this. Right? Yeah. These are called jeepneys. These are called tricycles. That's how those are mode of transportation. This will be their Uber. You see? Okay. Now this is the Emmanuel Bible Conference. These are pastors and preachers. This is Dr. Allman at DTS. These are had our certificates. They did a 2-week study on Bible interpretation of Psalms. Right? Now, I preached there, but the guy told me, he said, you're allowed to preach, but you got to make sure that you're indoors. Right? Because you can't preach outside, because it's against the law. Right outside the place where we are, there is a Muslim mosque. I'm talking about probably from me to this 2 classrooms down, a Muslim mosque. And during my presentation, during those times that they have to pray, you hear this call for prayer. You know. And so you're going into a different context. And you literally almost go into time, almost like the time of Jesus. And you can see the hostility people would have toward Jesus, whether it be Muslim, whether it be Hindu. These people need the gospel. Right? This guy named Anthony, his son is going, matter of fact, his son is coming to Dallas Baptist University. Right? He started this semester. So I had about 20 people there. Right? This is the class. They graduated. Right? They're going back into their communities, in their churches, and presenting the gospel. Some people are leaving the Hindu religion, getting ostracized by their family, right? Because this is in the city of Vizag, Michigan Department, right? There's another city, come on, this is me in the Philippines preaching. This is my student, these are my students. Now these students in the Philippines, their desire is to go and reach their community, their villages, their provinces for Jesus. Most of them are 25 years and under. Right? So they come to the Word of life. And here's the thing. If you look at some of these people's houses that they come from, it's almost like you would probably say it's unlivable. You see? But they have a heart for the gospel and a heart for missions. Right? Okay? So you can research mission organizations. Well, where do I go from here? Well, we have the North American Mission Board. We have the International Mission Board. Look out, you want to say anything?
I'd be happy to, brother.
Yeah, say something a little bit about the International Mission Board. And he has some cards here as well.
The International Mission Board is probably the oldest and longest standing Southern Baptist Mission Board and missions organization in North America. We have 3,700 missionaries around the world. I'm a church mobilizer for Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. So any aspect of missions you want to do in any country, you can contact us. We'll be happy to connect you with those opportunities, anywhere from youth to senior citizens opportunities, construction, social work, all the things that you put up there. We do all of that. Medical missions. We just had the largest medical missions conference this year that we've had in Oklahoma City in July with 350. And by the way, no brown-skinned people, for the most part, were there. There's actually surgeons, nurses, dentists that are saying, after my education, I'm going into the mission field.
Wow.
So they're doing it. 350 is the largest number. So you look at it, we do it. If you're with us, you do short-term missions, that's great. If you want to do long-term, you don't have to raise money with the International Mission Board. We pay you a salary. So you get a salary to live in the country where you're living at if you're staff with the International Mission Board, all made possible through the cooperative program.
Yes.
So I want to thank you and your churches for giving to the cooperative program and how you do that. But I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I can. We got to get more of us in the field because most of us ain't there. So when I go to Africa, I just left Mumbai a few weeks ago. I saw the poverty that you was talking about, the traffic, all that. But guess what? A heart and a passion to come to know Christ and make Him known, even in the midst of the persecution and poverty that they have, where the country has now turned because of the new president against Christianity. As you say, the Muslims have their place, Hindus have their place, but they don't want to see the gospel spread through Christianity. And so difficult people, beautiful people in a difficult place with a hunger for the gospel, but we got to have laborers who are willing to go to share so that they can take the gospel to their people.
You're amazing how people have a passion. When I left India, I literally cried because of what they probably have to go through. But they still have joy on the face, with joy in the heart, you know. And first time being there, when I had to go through immigration, because the Hindus were in government, they were asking me all kinds of questions about my visa. Who you gonna stay with? Where you stay at? What's the phone number? Who you gonna be with? They taking pictures everywhere about wherever I go, taking pictures, right? Check into the hotel. Let me see your passport. Let me take a picture. Click, click. You don't know if they're monitoring you or what.
They are.
You know what I'm saying? He said, even in that, they have a joy for the Lord. Right? And so, so we got many different organizations. I know it's time to go, but I got some, well, in fact, if you want me to, I can email this presentation to you, right? There's one call of hope, outreach to Muslims, and you know, you probably have this in the International Mission Board. If you want for Africa, International Justice Ministries, team of lawyers, social justice workers, child evangelism, then you want to focus on children, worship, because this one is Christ our worship consistent with their culture. In other words, you're not going in and trying to make them American.
Right.
Right? You're going in, seeing where they are, and letting them worship, right? Because I told this guy in the Philippines, I said, man, you're going to have to resist the temptation to have an American church on Filipino soil.
That's right.
You know, God created you in His image and in His likeness. You worship the way God created you to do that. You know what I'm saying? The organizations that do that. Sometimes he said, well, I just want to take my expertise in training, like you did, just train people that are disciple makers. Even if you don't go, you can train some people to go, right?
That's right.
Okay. Also, if you can't go, you can send. How many of you have heard of the cooperative program? Y'all know what the cooperative program is? See? How many ever heard of the Lottie Moon offering? So you need to get your churches involved in this, because the cooperative program, what it does is it pulls resources, people contribute to the church, and it supports missionaries. That's why International Mission Board can send missionaries and pay their salary, because of the cooperative program. Right? That's why Southwestern Seminary, Southeastern Seminary are around, and people get discounted rates because of the cooperative program.
That's right.
Right? Light of Moon offering is taken up from people that have been mentioned. So, and sometimes, let's say that you have a missionary, you can offer, if they're coming in, use your house to house them while they're here. Right? You can also plant a church and support a church in a different country. You see, all these different mission opportunities that you can have. Okay?
Yeah, we do all of that, brother. So that's what, and it's all made possible through the cooperative program.
Yeah.
We would come together. We can do more together than we could separate.
Yeah. So it says that everybody, these individuals, right? Okay. I wouldn't have made it through Southwestern Seminary without a cooperative program. You know what I'm saying? A lot of missionaries won't be able to make it without the cooperative program. So, you know, find out what your church is. It's through Southern Baptist Convention, right? And you can contribute to that if you BGCT, Texas Baptist, you all can contribute to the Baptist. Sometimes you may be dually aligned, you may be National Baptist and Southern Baptist, right? Or maybe BGCT. They all can contribute to the cooperative program. Yes, ma'am.
So is it something you have to apply for, the corporate program to help the missions?
Well, if you have to get with your pastor, because if they're, what's the name of your church? New Testament Baptist? You have to get with your pastor because they may be part of the Southern Baptist Convention or the Texas Baptist and National Baptist. And then he can say, okay, how do I contribute? It may be a monthly sum. How do you contribute to the cooperative program? Right? Yeah. And you give to it on a monthly basis, and then they distribute it as they need to. Right? Very good. Yes, sir.
On a local level, what's the difference between evangelism and missions?
Well, evangelism is just focused on simply sharing the gospel, focusing on conversions, something like that. Missions may be a little bit different. Missions may focus on maybe different aspects, right? Ultimately, it's evangelistic because we're trying to bring people to Christ. But missions may be more toward maybe service-oriented, serving the community, stuff like that, for the purpose of bringing them to Christ.
Yeah.
You see?
Love.
Very good question.
Yeah.
I think the reason why we miss the mark as people of color because of the finances. I'm just be honest. I don't know if our church would help finance, going, internationally or whatever. Now we do good, I say, locally.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to going out internationally, that's where we miss the mark at.
Yeah.
And my daughter, she had opportunity. I just texted her. I wanted to see her church, which is mixed color, mostly white. They went on a week mission trip.
Yes.
And she got a chance to witness. And I think she has appreciation of what I've been telling her.
Yeah.
She has a different appreciation. She said, oh, I want to go back again because she got to see poverty. She got to see them even do a little surgery.
Yeah.
And she got to witness, them doing immunization.
Yeah.
So it has changed her whole perspective.
See?
And I thank God for her, because I used to talk about her going to another church. But if she's doing what she's supposed to do,
Yes.
it don't regardless where you go,
Yes.
as long as you get the word of God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thank God for her, and she's in her 30s, and
See.
she's already on the go.
See?
So I'm glad that I instilled and poured that kind of stuff
Yes.
into her.
Yeah.
And if I get my 19-year-old to do something,
But what it is give them a sense of purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
And if they see, they'll catch it. Because the thing about millennials they got to have something to do. You got to give them a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Now we see that in the political arena because you know who for the first few years, the last few elections, you know who the millennials were going to? They weren't going to the young cats. You know who the millennials going to? Like Bernie Sanders.
My daughter voted for him.
You know what I'm saying? And back then it was Ron Paul. Why? Because he said, hey man, this is what we're going to do. This is our purpose. This is our mission. Right?
Where does the millennium age start?
I think it's starting in age 1990. 2 minutes, okay. 19, I think it's starting age from 1990 to, I got to see. I got so mixed up in my head.
80 to 2000.
Okay,
Yeah, 80 to 2000. My kids are right there.
Okay.
Sons, more than 83, daughters in 88. They're millennials, so most of them are in their 30s now.
Yeah.
Many of them in their 30s
Yeah.
now, so 30s to 40. So yeah, it's without a sense of purpose, they'll die on the hill if they have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got an email right here from a 24-year-old. Text me. She emailed me at 12:48 a.m. this morning. She's in Nepal. Just went through Tibet. She said, I want to talk to you when I get back because I'm looking at full-time missions.
See.
Young lady at my church. And but she's with another organization right now, but she's found a purpose.
Yeah.
And she's on fire right now.
And see, that's what I'm thinking. Because when I went first time, I said, you know what?
It'll change your life when you get
It
out
will.
of the country. Yeah.
And I'm saying, I don't think I'm praying about it, but I don't think I'm gonna live out my last years in America.
You don't think so?
I think I'm going somewhere and.
You know, you think there's something?
Cause I'm not saying I'm not needed here, but
You feel like,
people with a seminary education are a dime a dozen here.
okay.
They don't have that in some of these remote places.
Where?
They can teach somebody. They just don't.
Okay.
You know what
I
I'm
need you to
saying?
move by.
Yeah.
I just left there and we need
So if I wanted to
education
go to
to
school,
move
I
by.
just
Yeah.
start
I need to get you to
and
move
go
by.
to school.
Well, see,
Oh, you gonna say?
I was gonna to piggyback on what she said. We have a small congregation, maybe under 300, but there's a larger church, and we're from Garland, Mount
Yeah.
Hebron.
Yeah.
And they
Little
go
Leach.
to Africa once
Yeah.
and I was offered the opportunity, asked me if I want, my pastor, if I want to go to Africa next year. But the first thing came out of my mouth was no, you know, because I'm thinking about the jungle. But I spoke to my sister, she said, Sheila, that's an opportunity. So I went back to him, he said, sometime next year, he said, but so St. Mark does partnership with a larger church to go to
Yeah.
Africa. I think they're building churches or something.
Yeah.
And they stay for about a week or two.
Yeah.
And,
And so you partner with, if you're a smaller church,
uh-huh,
you know, you got Concord that does missions, you got Leonard Leach, the Mount Hebron that
Yeah,
does
we
missions.
want-
We'll take you with us.
Yeah.
We'll head to Ecuador next month. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, once you get the bug, I'm telling you, you'll say,
and that's what, and I think when Reverend Duncan's still, I think we have gone with them a couple of years to Africa. And I
Yeah.
think sometime next year, they're going back. And I might try to go now.
yeah, try to go.
You know,
It
it's
is
so much,
it isn't just for
yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
Can go. Yeah, I just fear the
It's so
unknown.
much unrest in so many parts of the world now. But there always have been,
It's unrest
and
here.
there always
Yeah.
will be. So just go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stop being scared.
Okay, I have Brother Calhoun for International Mission Board here, and my card here also, if you would like that, in case you want to need any more questions. Our time is up, y'all. Sorry, I got, seemed like that time went by so quick.
Yeah, very good.
Very informative.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.